City in city. 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 Honda, 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 Honda. City. Honda, Honda, Honda.
The name Honda didn't really go well with supercars, speed or anything fun, and no one expected it to. In the 80s, supercars were mostly Italian or German, Lamborghinis, Ferraris or a Porsche. No one dared to challenge them, not even Honda, who could just make Civics, Accords and a robot. They were known for three things: being cheap, practical and reliable. Lamborghini had the Countach, Jalpa and Jarama. The Countach design was glorious. It was fast only if you could drive it. The windows didn't open, you couldn't see properly. It wasn't reliable. Just the sight of the engine was so confusing. Ferrari wasn't the best. Their 328 was difficult to drive and the handling was very poor. Is it the 308? It consumes a lot of oil, even cooking oil, and you might eventually sell it to your electrician or maybe trade it with his pliers. Driving a supercar in the 80s was like arm wrestling. Design-wise, they were all great. Although Honda had nothing at that time, so they took the opportunity to build the first Japanese supercar to beat Ferrari. A car fast enough to leave Ferraris and Lamborghinis in its tail lights. A car that brought a new meaning to speed. A car that told every Italian manufacturer they were not worth it. A reliable and practical car at the same time being very cheap. A car from a company known for civics, a Honda. In the 90s, Honda had a word for supercar and it was the NSX, a Japanese car built to tackle the best of Ferraris. Let's go through the years of the NSX. I'm Dozie and welcome back to the channel. In 1984, Honda decided to make a concept that would represent a future sports car. They selected Pininfarina to design a sports car for them. Pininfarina was famous for some of their designs such as the Ferrari Testarossa and the Ferrari 348 TS and even the legendary F40. Pininfarina designed a car called the Honda HPX, which featured a smooth and streamlined body for aerodynamic efficiency. Honda decided to create a sports car that was completely different from the rest, one that is fun, simple and even practical, one that could shred a racetrack and even pick up groceries at the same time. Shigeru Ohara, the project leader of the NSX, had high expectations for the car as he wanted it to be as fast as something out of Ferrari. They decided to assassinate their new car, the Ferrari 328, which changed into the 348. Honda called it the NSX, which means New Sport Experimental. They called Pininfarina again to design the NSX based on the HPS concept they made. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was the engine. The Honda Legend V6 Honda initially used on the NSX wasn't even close and couldn't compare to the V8 on the 348. So Honda decided to develop a new engine, the aluminium 270 horsepower V6 engine that could be found in one today. Sure, it's still a V6, but it was also a VTEC. Honda Motorsport division were also heavily involved with the project, including Formula 1 legend Ayrton Senna. Senna was Honda's main initiator. He was the test driver. He drove it at Honda Suzuka circuit in Japan, Nürburgring and some other tracks. He convinced the company to stiffen the NSX chassis, improve suspension tuning and handling without adding too much weight. All his advice made the NSX 50% stiffer. After all the final decisions, the Honda was ready to hit the market. In 1989, Honda reviewed the production version of the Honda NSX at Chicago Auto Show and at Tokyo Motor Show a few months later for its Japanese debut. It was renamed from the NS-X into the NSX. The NSX went on sale in Japan in 1990, making it a new flagship model from Honda. The NSX was sold under Honda's flagship luxury brand Acura starting in November 1990 in North America and Hong Kong. The NSX was the first production car to feature an all-aluminium body. The use of aluminium made it as light as a Formula 1 car. It was assembled by 200 of Honda's highest skilled and most experienced personnel, a team of hand-picked staff with a minimum of 10 years of experience. NSX went on beating supercars like the Corvette ZR1, Porsche 911, Ferrari 348 TS and the Lotus Esprit Turbo, still being very cheap and civically reliable. Honda has done it. They stood out by winning the Ferrari that they planned for, but they didn't stop there. Despite the NSX already overthrowing competitors from Ferrari, Honda decided that it could do more with it. They wanted to make a Katana sharper than the way it is, so they decided to develop the NSX-R in 1992, a more performance-oriented variant of the NSX featuring a lighter body and a more powerful engine. Honda engineers started with a base NSX coupe and invested on an aggressive program of weight reduction. Sound deadening, the audio system, spare tires, air condition system and traction control, along with some other electrical equipment, was removed just to reduce the weight. The power leather seats were replaced with lightweight carbon racing seats. However, electric windows and electric seat adjusters were retained. The stock forged alloy wheels were replaced with lighter forged aluminum wheels produced by Enkei. The stock leather shift knob was replaced with titanium. Honda managed to remove approximately 120 kilos of weight and stabilize the suspension even more than the NSX. The original NSX mid-engine layout and the rear end link travel was prone to sudden oversteer during cornering maneuvers. While this condition rarely occurred, it was more dominant on racetracks where speeds were much higher. To improve the NSX Arrow cornering stability at the limits, Honda added more chassis rigidity then replaced the entire suspension, making it stiffer. Though the ride can be a bit noisy due to stiffer suspension and lack of sound insulation, Honda produced a limited number of 483 NSX Arrow variants but just for the Japanese market, and they were loved by everyone. Even Ayrton Senna had one for himself. In 1995, the NSX-T with a removable tiger top style was introduced in Japan as a special order and in America that same year. It was a semi-convertible version of the NSX, just like the Supra and the Corvette. It weighed more than the standard NSX due to the chassis redesign they did for the lack of a roof, which also decreased the chassis rigidity. The NSX-T replaced the standard coupe entirely in North America as the only available version in 1994, and all the NSX thereafter were in Targa form with exception of the Zanardi Special Edition in 1999. But the European market continued to offer both body styles. Honda was ready for every hit with the NSX. It appeared 3 times in the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1994, 1995 and 1996. 3 Honda NSX entered in the 1994 24 Hours of Le Mans. Cars number 46, 47 and 48 were prepared and ran by Team Kramer Racing Honda, with Team Kunimitsu assisting and driving the number 47 car. 3 Honda NSX also entered in the 1995 24 Hours of Le Mans. Honda brought 2 turbocharged NSX which were entered in the GT1 class number 46 and 47. Team Kunimitsu Honda prepared and entered the naturally aspirated NSX into the GT2 class number 84. Car 46 finished but was not classified for failing to complete 70% of the distance of the race winner. Car 47 did not finish due to a clutch and gearbox failure. Car 84, driven by Keiichi Tsuchiya, the Drift King, Akira Leda and Kimichi Takahashi, finished first in the GT2 class and was 8th overall after completing 275 laps. It was such a big win for Honda that they added it to the legendary Gran Turismo racing game so it can be remembered. After their racing experience, Honda introduced the NSX's biggest performance upgrades for all its worldwide markets in 1997. The engine increased from a 3.0 litre to a 3.2 litre and other improvements on performance and weight reduction. All this added to the 20 additional horsepower drawn from the new engine. Along with the engine displacement in 1997, Japan received the NSX Type S and the NSX Type S0. Both came with a titanium shift knob, Momo steering wheels, BBS lightweight aluminum wheels and bucket seats. And they both had a stiffer suspension than the standard NSX. The NSX Type S0 was the powerful version of the standard NSX Type S and was also the lighter version. The Type S was even more limited than the Type R, with only 209 Type S model and 30 Type S0 models in 4 years of production. It was this race-inspired variant of the NSX that kept it in seasons of the Super GT, and to this day prices are skyrocketing even more than some new Ferraris and Lamborghinis. During the production process of the NSX in the 90s before the 2000s, we lost someone who played a huge role in the NSX. That someone was Ayrton Senna, an F1 driver / test driver / investigator of the NSX, died in an accident while leading the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix as a result of his crash into a concrete barrier. Then Alex Zanardi, the guy Honda made a special NSX for, the Alex Zanardi Special Edition NSX, lost his leg in a horrific crash in 2001, and there was no chance for him to race or drive his own NSX. Honda then worked on his NSX so he can drive it with hand controls. This shows how Honda cared about their customers, especially when the car shares name with you. The NSX started showing signs of aging. because the design was unchanged for over a decade, so Honda decided to give it a facelift. The original NSX body design received only minor modifications. In 2001, the original pop-up headlights were replaced with fixed xenon headlights, along with slightly wider rear tires to complement a revised suspension. A facelifted version of the NSX-R was released in 2002 exclusively in Japan. As with the first NSX-R, weight reduction was still the primary focus for performance enhancement. The chassis is based on a fixed roof coupe due to its lighter weight and a more rigid construction. Carbon fiber was used to a large extent throughout the body components to reduce weight, including a larger and more aggressive rear spoiler, vented hood and deck lid. The vented hood was said to be the largest one-piece carbon fiber hood in production cars. The engine was relatively unchanged besides a few parts being swapped for lighter overall weight. Honda maintains that the power output of the NSX-R engine is 290 horsepower, which is identical to the stock version. The second gen NSX sold exclusively in Japan like other NSX sports cars, and Honda still kept the weight at 1,320 kilos. Sadly, Honda had to discontinue the NSX due to low sales. But the NSX legacy didn't end there, because Honda developed a newer NSX to compete in the Super GT series, to replace the outgoing 1995 NSX Super GT, and it featured a hybrid system. The system added another 220 kilos to the race car, and to determine how big of a difference it was, it makes Honda enlisted the driving expertise of Katsutomo Kenichi. Kenichi was able to lap the twin-ring Motegi circuit in 1 minute 49 seconds. It was 4.4 seconds behind the fastest lap time in the last session. Honda then worked on a 5 production car run of the NSX-R GT, built as the world's newest homologation special. The Honda NSX-R GT is a celebration of everything NSX. This was basically the mixture of the NSX-R and the Super GT, including the wide body and a giant intake scoop at the top of the car, which wasn't really functional like the one on the Super GT, but just one of them was sold to a man named Yoshiaki Yoshida. He was the head of Japanese cosmetics and head foods company and was a pretty good NSX enthusiast. Honda then announced the end of the NSX in August 2005. Then 11 years later in 2016, Honda brought us the new NC1 NSX. And when it was revealed, the hype didn't have an actual presence in reality, because everybody thought it was going to be a V10 supercar with a low price. Although it was fast, but it didn't feel like a good deal for its price, because the NSX is supposed to be a cheaper supercar. Hopefully we might get an electric NSX, maybe, just maybe. And this is my story of the NSX, and it's a new series to the channel called Through the Years. Subscribe and leave a comment below if you like it, and goodbye and see you when I see you.